سلام لهم كلهم. شم البابا وبرونا وروح تكون شيخ عالمين. يا مريا اي تدميروخ ايك الجمع تري يا مطلعة بشمي انا بداوم بين ثوخن ويدها بيناثا مبارخ لن وعنن وهلا قوة تتأذخ من دي الكبت. هلا قوة تتجمع كلا بغداد تدهاوخ كلا رئيدا وخلطة تتبانخ أمثليا تتبانخ إيتا كل من دي اللي تطوت الجماعة الدم. أكيد سنيك والعنون دي وخي أمري لها بذ من دي سبب شريثة وكل شريثة كيبالا ثلوثة وكيبالا محضر تطوتا وكيبالا عجبوهنا طاوة طلبوا منه اقتديا والكل يتأندي حاضر كل يأندي لي ببلاخة وكل يدي لي كل دكثة من أنثى وطعيفة مبرد عقلي وتديا والتي ومن دي طاوة إيبه مصلحة الإيتا والجماعة وآدي كل من ديك طلبوخ لمنوخ تشو حديوخ شمت بابا وبرونا وبرونا كتشاخ على آمين. شكرا.
Thank you, Bishop Ibrahim Kassab. At this time, I would like to introduce our future, Mr. Junior Jawad, at the poem and surah he would like to share with you. But before we do that, I'll ask you please check your telephone. It should be on vibrate or silent. Please do so. Thank you.
شلان اللوخن أخواثة وخثواثة تأصورة كالداية هلو ناثة إيوان بصيخة كلا جمعنا بذشيثة تدنطرخ بغداد أمثا كالديثة باطر يركن مار الويساكو كمشاريله وباب مار إبراهيم شمي كم بارسله وكبيرة أمي تطوتن كم أوذيله وأخني كلا بغداد بكم لخلة لقبارد ناشخ أتيروثد أمثا إدبابا أوراهم قمل بأرد أثرا وبابل قبرتا بشل بنيثة بإداثا ومارا مخلصانا محكيل بلوشانا أثأصورة بكل دكانة بشل مشوريا إيراق كندا باريس ألمانيا وكاليفورنيا يوم بثر يوم بشئي لشمي بروايا تبسخوثة وحوياذة ادعم كالدايا الصورة كالدايا زدقا بدناطر وإيكد إيثا كالدايا بدخاضر وشمن ولشانا بعلم كل بدمبهر وطقسا وتشعيثا بلبا بدناقر يالد كالداية بعلم كل بالجمعي وفايدة كبيرة من أثقل صورة بتشقلي اللي تشعيث أمتا وإيتا بتشمي ولوشانا كالداية أخبلبل بديالبي بقوشينا أمد كل ناشب بتبلخخ وعيانا تكل سنيق بدياوخ وحب وحوياذا تكل ناشب مقروخ وبيثا كالدايا إيذا بإيذا بدبانوخ بصخلا كبيرة بذ عاصرت ثيلوخن وتأصورة كالدايا شطلوخ إذوخن وبعوند مريا بخلب ببالخوتن وتوطد عم كالدايا تاودريثا بلبوخن. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jawad. We appreciate it. Now, officially, we'll start the meeting. I thank you on behalf of the Chaldean League USA for your presence for this evening. It brings us a pleasure, and we're very grateful to have the best of the best from the Chaldean community, the cream of the crop, the elite people who comes. Together we'll be having the Chaldean League working together in our community in Michigan. I would like first, on behalf of everybody, to welcome Bishop Kassab, Bishop Francis Qalabat. Thank you, Sayyidina, for all what you have done to the Chaldean League so far, especially for recognition one of the classrooms at City of Warren to give us an office in there. We appreciate your dynamic work with us. God bless. Bishop Ibrahim, we thank you for your time, effort, energy, especially we went to San Diego, we established Chaldean League in there, you show us the way, and God bless, and thank you very much. I'd like to introduce you, the Chaldean League. I am speaking on behalf of the Chaldean League. My name is Mudaffar David Na'man Al-Qashamon, Chaldean League USA. I'm the president. And we have a board member, Mrs. Amanda Al-Katib, Mr. Junior Jawad, Mr. Aidan Qalabat, our chairman, representative of the global organization, Mr. Jamal Qalabat. And we have the founders and the steering committees on the side. We have Michigan League. Hopefully, in a few weeks, we'll be having complete establishment of Michigan. We have already established San Diego. We're looking forward in a few more weeks to establish Chicago, Illinois, Phoenix, Arizona. Again, thank you for your presence. God bless. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to share a few facts with you prior to we start to tell you who we are, why we have asked you to come in this evening, what we have in mind, what's our mission, what's our goal. I'd like to share some facts with you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you know the fact that our people who live as a Chaldean people live outside of Iraq, there are 3 times more than the Chaldean people living in Iraq. This is a fact. It's a fact, ladies and gentlemen, that the Chaldean people right now living in 16 different countries. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a fact that it's an average Chaldean family of 5 may live in 3 different countries. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a fact that the new wave of the settlers coming at least to the United States, their lack of education, their lack of experience, and even their lack of passion to work. Ladies and gentlemen, if we'll take those facts to the highest level of the United Nations, they may call it the crime of the century. It's a need right now. We feel, at least at the Chaldean League, that there is an enormous effort needed to have one voice, one effort, one energy for the Chaldean community. This is the mission. That's where we ask you to come in. We have quite a few presentations from our bishops and Mr. Aidan Qalabat. And the closing remark will be from Mr. Qalabat, Jamal Qalabat. And before we do that, I'd like to thank our students, Representative Kassab from Toronto, Canada. I'd like to recognize and thank Sian, Shenandoah Country Club, for offering a place for us to meet at Shenandoah Country Club. Thank you very much. We appreciate your effort. I'd like to thank the Chaldean Foundation. They offer us the library and the conference room at any time. You can come in and meet at their place. I thank you. I would like to start with Bishop Ibrahim. Give us a remark. Bishop.
Thank you, Mudaffar. سيدنا مار فرانسيس، مار جبرائيل، أخوات وخطوات عزيزة. حقيقة قم كل من ديك شكرك لكم كبيرا كل اللبن، يعني مو بس أنا كلا، خاصة الصورة كالداية، قدام الصورة كالداية، شكرك لكم دي ثلاثة آخر مخلية وتتيوة، خوش ريزر أدري هذا، كل شخلية، أكيد كده خمنا خمندي تدياول تعمدية كالداية. إذا بياول خناوة قصة، إذا بياول كبيرة، الموجب ما لها كاول عون تد مقادم أو من ديت كده بس كل خامنا إيه كديل كل كالداية بعلمة إيه بتدياول خمندي تعمدية كالداية وأثمن دي إيه طاوة دخد هاو طاوة ما تاو قصة نجم أخلى كل أن من دانه إيجا بيشوخ قوي بيشوخ محيدة بيشوخ خيلانة برسوخ شمن كردايا وتنطرخ يثوثن هويتن وتنطرخ شمن ولشانن يعني السورة كردايا ليه تداول شراكة أما تشون عشر كل كي بخلا أخواتن وخطواتن دغدم يقرخ لا بركم يقريلا تغدم تنيقارة تشمديا التنيقارة تشمدية بس أنهم قركاوي لا إقارة تشمد يعني الأكبر زال الخادر قل خنا فلا خشوة أبدا أنه الصورة كالداية رابطة الكلدانية إلى درق الأيخة أبدا ليلة إلى مجرد بيتا كالداية هاو خا هاو قوية هاو محيدة أثمن دي إلى غايته من هذا طلبخ من نوخن كل خا تنمزد بعد خدمته تنمزد هوالد اتدي البيوالة تعمدية كالداية وتدهاول شهارة دي الكالداية تخدميري أم الإقارة تكلي أنا خن شمانة إيما شمت كيبا دك عاجب لا تدهوا بقاوي التنيقارة طلي بس قالك هم أني هاويلا إقارة تشمديا كالداية كل أخو كيدوتو من الببراء بقاو العراق كل أخو كيدوتو من الببراء بقاو سوريا وكلنا كيدوخ ما زي البار بقاو مذنحة بالشرق كلنا كيدوخ لين حاجة تدياوخ تصريحات ولا تمدي بس قصة ما تاول كمرجوخ التنقمود بقالها أنه تدلبر هذا تدلخروا مش كبيرة ولمبر بز عمديا الدكان خن كبيرة ما قتاو جميع الأغلال إلى بيشتغل بس كدخ منا أنا بأمريكا أنا بأوروبا أنا بعراق أنا بأستراليا أنا بكندا كدخ منا الدكتة لخ ليه بتشاقلها كدخ منا الدكتة بقاو دث قشمة كالذايا بقاو دث إيتا عمّا كالذايا أمثى كالذيتا وكيدو خنه عمديا كالذايا إيد كبيرة من دان ديلا بقراشة ديلا بربوزة ديلا ببراشة خامن خا فكيبوخ نيشان قمايا ويوا أنه الصورة كالداية داصيرا كلا بغداد الصورة كالداية أنه تنآصر عم كالداية بغداد لا درق الخنة لا بس تدراشوخ ديوخ خبيثة خعاينة زو مثلا بيتا إيمن بابا ويما ويال كل كعيني خاخا بلخي خامت خنا كاو بيتا قوية كاو بيتا طاوة لبزدين جمندي يعني الحاجة تد أمر بالإنجليزي من دي ها خاصة إنجليزي أوكي كم ممري لقرية بالإنجليزي بقارنة بالإنجليزي. Our patriarch Mar Luis Sacco recognized that this threat. In response, he organized a conference in Erbil, which took place between 1st and 3rd July 2015. There was 8 Chaldean bishops, including myself, and 60 prominent figures of our Chaldean communities from around the world, gathered at the request of the Patriarch to establish an organization whose sole purpose was to unify and defend the rights of the Chaldean people around the world. There was no personal invitation at all from anyone. The invitation was public to everybody who wants to attend. The Patriarchate was offering hospitality, but not the expense of the travel, of the trip. So everyone was invited. Those 60 people, or maybe less a little bit, they attended. The attendees of this conference deliberated for 3 days to establish the bylaws, structure, and the leaders of the Chaldean League, Arabic and Chaldean names, to build the organization globally. Mr. Jamal Qallabat was elected as the Vice President of the Global Executive Board and was chosen to be the head of the Chaldean League in the USA. The Chaldean League is a non-governmental, non-ecclesiastical, non-profit global organization with a mission to connect all Chaldean people globally, to unite all Chaldean people globally. I said not ecclesiastical. ليلة الصورة كالداية ليل إيتانايا، يعني ليلة إيتا بس ليل معناتها بزال درق الإيتا، لا يتخبن دبقاوت بايلوس كامر إنه الصورة كالداية لدبار الزال درق الإيتا ما تنخبث لا مثلا إيتا لقبل مطروح إجهاض أبورشن، فالصورة كالداية لدبار الزال دامر لا أنا كم إيدن بختأت حقا تد مطرحة أي بس علاقة الصورة كالداية امد إيتا يلبان بإيتا بس ليه أوصياء الكالداية الصورة كالداية يمكن ده التنبشك برخاوة بقول قيمة دم هالقاشي ومطرانك محكا ليه الحمد لله هم ولا قاشي ليه آخر هم قاشي ليه إذ مطرانة تمام يغاق مطرانة فأي معناتها نون إكليزياستيكال يعني ليلة إيتانيتا ليلة أخويد البديشوع ليلة أخويد الصورة لا هي الصورة كالغاية. كبخوة حقيقة وخوة سنيق الهادخ مندي من زمان من زونة يريخة بشتوما هاوخو بربز آخو تامو تزوالا المدايب زوالا المداوة دغديلا مثلا أحزاب سياسية قب بوليتيقاي دي لاباو العراق إما سوراي كالداي لتولا قبة لتولا حزب فمجبور زوالا امد موفمنت اسرين موفمنت او خنه لا فالصوره كالغايه يلقاوا مدافع الزدق الحقوق العمديين كالغايه لازم امر كلا التنقاره ديوخ Chaldeans. We are Chaldean and proud of it. It is time to educate the world who are the Chaldeans, who are the people Chaldean, and where we exist. ولازم يعني إلى عدانا إلى زونا خاصة دراشوخ أخني دتن هويتن التن إيثوثن التن قوميتن التن شمن التن لشانا واني قرق حامخلا لان لم حامخلا اني بزالا كلن بشكخ جنوب السنتا دها. It is my pleasure to present to you our Honorable Bishop Mar Francis Kallabat.
Thank you, Sayyidina. It is always an honor to follow such a beautiful man, such a wonderful man, such an honorable man, and also such a man that worked so much towards our Chaldean people and our Chaldean name in the name of faith. So thank you, Sayyidina. Thank you for everything that you have done and continue to do. He's retired, but he's not retired. So I'd like to also thank everybody for coming here. Such wonderful faces, of course. Sayyidina Ibrahim, thank you. Sayyidina Gabriel, thank you for your presence. Also, it is a wonderful to always have you in the house. This wonderful and beautiful panel that we've met a few times. Hardworking, wonderful, beautiful job as always. It's so wonderful to see so many beautiful faces. Male, female, young, old, of all kinds, of all professions, from schools to as well as very much professional, as well as very much active in the church. Thank you. Thank you for taking this time. Thank you for taking this step. This is a very important point in our lives. So thank you for being present here. It is, as it was said, this is a momentous occasion. This is a time for us to stand up. As Sayyidina Ibrahim was saying, this is the time for us to stand up and to take our rights, to be able to present our name, because we have, in history, as well as today, we make history. We don't just look back and look at our forefathers, what they have done, but we are the ones that are going to stand up and take our steps just like our forefathers. We don't just come in and say, oh, my grandfather did this, or my great-grandfather. I am doing. And as we continue to move forward, we continue to build. So it becomes an important thing for us to understand, what is the Chaldean League? Who are we? What is our idea? What is, and how does this Chaldean League service? And who do they service? These are very important questions. On your invitations, you may have noticed the tagline of the League. It's the international voice of the unified Chaldean people. This is important for us to look back on. You may also have noticed in the mission statement, Chaldean League was established to unify, strengthen, promote, respect, organize, and defend the rights of the Chaldean people globally, as you can see, as well as here. Okay, what in the world does this mean? What is this all about? See, we can talk about a lot of theories, but it's important for us to understand, then move forward on how to implement. So let's explore this a little bit further. First, the international voice of the unified Chaldean people. It's broken down to two parts: international voice and unified Chaldean people. International voice sounds pretty self-explanatory, and basically it is. We are speaking on behalf of all Chaldeans around the world. And because of our circumstances of where we come from, and because of where we have ended up, we are in desperate need to have one voice to be able to speak on behalf of all Chaldeans. But there's a deeper message in there that I personally believe deserves our attention. International means between nations, and there's a voice between nations. So what we're saying is that the Chaldean League will be a conduit of communication between countries. Okay, let's look at the phrase unified Chaldean people. What are we doing is recognize that all Chaldean people around the world belong to one community. We, Chaldeans, Sweden, Detroit, California, and Australia, in Canada, around the world, are one people. So let's look at this phrase, unified Chaldean people. So what we're doing is recognizing that all Chaldean people around the world belong to one community, that one global organization is going to represent all of this, and that will be the Chaldean League. Representing Chaldeans around the world, providing conduit of communication, so that our communities around the world will be able to communicate, coordinate, collaborate. That's extremely, extremely important. These are powerful pieces of a infrastructure to build. It's going to be a challenge, but Chaldeans have been able to stand up to every challenge. Let's explore the mission statement. Specifically, each objective of the mission statement individually and then collectively. Individually, here's the mission statement. Unify, strengthen, promote, respect, organize, defend. Okay, unify. Absolutely necessary. Gives us credibility when we're unified in one cause, a common cause. Whether it's the situation in Iraq or the individual situations that are happening around the world. Strengthen the rights of the people. We have strengthened numbers. So unity will strengthen our cause. When your cause has strength, it can't be ignored. and we are tired of being ignored. Promote the rights of the Chaldean people. We need to make our rights as Chaldeans top priority in our local, regional, national, international communities. Best way to promote priority of our rights is to unify and strengthen first. Respect the rights of the Chaldean people. And there's a time that we need to respect those rights. It is now. Twofold objective. One, we need to respect the rights of our people. Two, command respect of our rights from others, especially when we live in foreign places or places where we fall under hostility. We gain the respect of others by achieving the three previous goals: unify, strengthen, promote. So, organizing the rights of the Chaldean people. It's an organized front. It's the most effective as achieving results. Before we can defend, we must organize all of our objectives. Because if we have different organizations doing different things apart from each other, it doesn't show unity. It just shows different parts of the one body doing things individually. Defending the rights of the Chaldean people. Once we've achieved our previous objectives, we can now move forward, defend our rights. Chaldean League is the method by which we can achieve all, not some, not a few, all of our objectives. See that this organization is set up to serve our Chaldean people, again, all around the world. Everything that Bishop Ibrahim and myself have said really sounds good in theory. And if there's anything that we know how to talk, but it's time to walk. That's what we're all about. How does the Chaldean League plan on accomplishing these monumental tasks? I'd like to invite the next speaker, Ibrahim, to give us details on how to put the rubber on the road. How now step up and accomplish this. We'd like to also recognize that Aydin is part of the U.S. Administrative Board of the Chaldean League to present this to you. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Aydin.
Thank you, Chaldean Francis. And thank you to all of our wonderful bishops here today. We're very grateful that you could be here to pray with us, to introduce the Chaldean League, give us a brief overview of what we're all about. We are truly blessed to have your service in our community. I'd also like to recognize a few other people in the crowd. I'd like to represent one of our state representatives here today, Kassab. Thank you for being here today. So, I want to touch on something that Chaldean Francis said, and that was that the Chaldean League is a conduit for communications between countries. What's a conduit? Can anybody tell me what a conduit is in a few short words? Anybody in the crowd? Nobody wants to volunteer? Connection, yes. That's pretty much what it is. A conduit is a very technical term that really is just a pipe. It's a pipe that we install in the ground. It's usually made out of PVC. Sometimes we even encase it in concrete to protect it. And basically we run our communications, our infrastructures through conduits. These get installed in the ground and they remain in the ground for our use at any time. We can come back and we can pull wires through it. We can remove wires. We can change what's inside of them. We can change directions. We can do a lot of things, but the point is that the infrastructure is established for us to use. It remains there. So the Chaldean League is the conduit. It is the pipe, the infrastructure through which our communication, correspondence, cooperation, and our services can move through freely and unobstructed. So I think this is a very important idea to understand as we move forward. Now I briefly want to go over our organizational structure. You have this handout in your overview. I think it's the last page of your overview, but basically we're just trying to represent a few things. That we are starting with a global community, a global executive board. We have representatives from all the different nations that Chaldeans reside, as well as the different regions within Iraq. Then we have, moving down to the U.S. National Board, we have our administrative board, and then we have our operational offices in Chicago, Illinois, Detroit, Michigan, Phoenix, Arizona, and San Diego, California. We also have 12 standing committees or subcommittees, and they are also listed in your handout material. You can see them up here. The most important thing to understand is that these committees are not final and set in stone, and that really each branch of the Chaldean League will customize their committees based on the needs of their community. So Michigan has specific needs, and we will establish and activate the committees that address and promote those needs. Our communities in Australia may have different needs. They may not activate some committees that we do and activate others that we don't here in Michigan. So it's really a la carte service that you provide your community based on the needs of your community. They can be changed, added, activated, deactivated at any time. So all of this sounds great in theory, and the structure looks great and organized. We've got a list of committees that cover a broad range of services, but how are we actually going to do that? What does it look like? What does the work that we're doing actually look like? So I want to go through a couple quick examples for you. The first example is in regards to political action and how our community appeals to our governments both locally and nationally. Currently, our political action as a community is at the whim of individuals. For example, if there is a gaudy development going up in your neighborhood, or a bill submitted to the House of Representatives, or even a piece of legislature that exists in our home country of Iraq that affects religious freedom of our Iraqi youth, our general public doesn't really understand the concepts and the mechanisms of filing a formal complaint to the Planning Commission, or of presenting your complaint before city council meetings, circulating petitions to gain signatures, and submitting letters to senators. So what do we do? In times like these, our general public really turns to prominent individuals within the Chaldean community. And these prominent individuals kind of take it upon themselves to act. It should not be the responsibility of private individuals. The Chaldean League will bear that responsibility of receiving the concerns of the public and addressing them to our governmental leaders. Now, when we achieve that, our governments will look at our Chaldean people and recognize us as organized, as unified. Not just a bunch of people in a room screaming, I have this and I need that. This is something that we have not done so far, and it is something that our Jewish cousins have done extremely effectively. And look at them, they run the world. And it's because of this. It's because they are unified in their efforts. When our governments hear about Jewish issues or Israeli issues and other organizations do similar things, they hear it from one face. When they want to reach out to those communities, they reach out to unified bodies, not prominent individuals. That's what the Chaldean League is going to establish. And that's an example of how we will operate and serve our community. So another example I want to give you is actually a very unique concept, and it's that of an embassy. The Chaldean League is going to exist in every community around the world that Chaldeans reside in. So, in fact, the Chaldean League will act as an embassy to our people. If you're traveling around the world and visiting places where Chaldeans reside, you will have a Chaldean League office that you can visit. They will receive you. They will introduce you to the community, take you around, show you what the community is doing. They will be there to attend to you and make sure that when we travel as Chaldeans, we have a place we can go that makes us feel welcome and at home all around the world. So this is a model that will solidify ourselves as a globalized community, which is what we are. We said it. We have Chaldeans living in 16 different countries. That's globalized. So this model will establish that and really unite us in that effort as well. So how do we achieve the creation of an organization that will accomplish all these goals? Well, we at the Chaldean League in the USA, we've set ourselves some short-term goals that we want to go over and just introduce to you. The first of which is marketing, media, and membership. This is the lifeblood of our organization. This is really what's going to fuel our organization. I don't think it needs any further explanation. The second one is to address the issue in Iraq of religious freedom, and specifically religious freedom in our youth. This is something that we're going to need to engage our community and our community leaders and our organizations at doing, at collecting ourselves, organizing ourselves, unifying ourselves, and defending our rights back home as a unified global community. And finally, we'd like to establish our subcommittees, the ones that we presented in the previous slide and you have in your handouts as well. So in order to do that, we want to also engage our organizations and our community leaders, because quite frankly, a lot of those services are being conducted by our organizations. So we want to hold roundtable discussions to establish these committees, to figure out who is best to serve on these committees and to act in these committees. So we've also have an ongoing action plan, or our long-term goals. And really, it's to help us serve our community locally, nationally, globally, and that begins here in Michigan. Here in Michigan, we have a lot of services that we offer. And a lot of you in this room offer most of those services. So one thing we want to do is we want to build upon those. We want to improve them. But we're not just saying that we're going to come into your organization, tell you what you're doing wrong, and tell you how you need to be better, and you need to do it like this, and you need to do it like that. No, that's not what we're talking about. What we mean is that the Chaldean League is going to assist in connecting our organizations, bringing them together so that they can learn from one another. So they can understand where some of us have succeeded and some of us have failed. So we're not reinventing the wheel every time we try to accomplish something. And ultimately, the goal is to create a comprehensive community service plan. On a national level, the Chaldean League will assist in establishing those comprehensive community services to areas around our nation that are lacking. So we have services here in Michigan that we're providing that are not being provided in San Diego or in Chicago or in Phoenix. So there's no reason why they should not be. And the Chaldean League is the conduit for communication, the infrastructure by which we can communicate from Michigan to these other locations, will help to expand the services that we're providing here to our communities there. Likewise, we'll do this on a global level as well. There's no reason why our communities in Australia or in Canada or anywhere around the world cannot benefit from the services that the Chaldeans here in Michigan already benefit from. So now we arrive at the moment that you've all been waiting for. How does the Chaldean League affect my organization? What do you want from me? The answer to that is quite simple. The Chaldean League seeks to engage our existing Chaldean organizations, establishing relationships based on trust, respect, and collaboration. The number one misconception that I hear of the Chaldean League is that it's going to try and do things that our other organizations are already doing. And I've heard several people ask questions like, what do we need the Chaldean League for? We have so many organizations, all of you in this room here, that are already doing so many things. What's the point? Why do you need another organization? And as cynical as that sounds, there's actually some validity to that, to these questions. And the validity is that here in Michigan, our organizations have accomplished a great deal of things. They've helped our community grow in many different ways. But I stress, that is here in Michigan. This is a global organization. And that, in and of itself, becomes the very basis for the argument why an organization like this is absolutely necessary. Because our organizations here in Michigan have established a wonderful foundation. But any experienced builder is going to tell you that the foundation is only the first part of building a house. And Sayyidina Ibrahim said it, we want to build our Chaldean house. we want to expand upon what we've accomplished here in Michigan. We want to take that outreach first to the national level, our communities around our nation, and then globally. So it's been said several times that the Chaldean League will be a conduit for communication. The infrastructure that we hope to establish as the Chaldean League will create an integrated network to connect Chaldean communities with other communities, organizations with other organizations, and individuals to organizations and communities alike. The strategy is to use Michigan as a model, improve upon what we have here, and then expand that nationally and then globally. We want to make available the full suite of community services to all our Chaldean communities around the world, but we need your help. More accurately, we need your service and your experience. This is not something we can achieve without you. Understand that. You are needed here. You will provide the services and the expertise and the experience. The Chaldean League will provide the infrastructure, the conduit, to take your experience, your services that we're providing, and expand them. Travel, nationally, then globally. So let's look at what an example of this looks like, and let's take a look at the flight of our Chaldean people right now. I think it's a great example. So when we're talking about refugees and flight of people, there's three classifications that we distinguish. The first one are people who have remained in that country, remained in Iraq, are displaced. They ultimately have fled their homes, cities, and villages, but they've reestablished themselves somewhere else in Iraq, and for all intents and purposes of this discussion, they're going to remain there. That's their final resettlement area. These are displaced peoples. Secondly, we come to refugees. Now, refugees are people that are in transition, that have fled the country, fled Iraq, but have not made it to their final destination of resettlement. And then finally, we have the resettled people that have established themselves, that have arrived at their final destination. Now they're beginning to rebuild their lives. So here in Michigan, we actually have several organizations that are providing services to all three of these. But are we duplicating any of these services? Are all three of these services being provided the same services, these three classifications? Is there one that is doing more than another? Realistically, we can't answer that question. Because for the most part, the organizations and the people that are servicing these communities are independent from one another. They're working on their own. So, likewise, there could be organizations that our Chaldean brothers and sisters in France, for example, have created to help these people out. Are we learning from them? Do we know what they're doing? Can we build upon it? Can we share our ideas with them so that we can all together service these people more effectively and more comprehensively? So the answer to all these questions resoundingly is yes. And the Chaldean League will do just that. It's to gather our organizations, host roundtable discussions so that we can learn from one another, we can put our heads together, and really target and address these issues comprehensively. Making sure that there aren't any holes or gaps, that we haven't left anybody out, that the things that we're successful on, we're able to promote and do more of. And the areas that we failed, well, maybe we try something different, or don't continue to try that route because it didn't work. So this is the example of how we're going to accomplish it. This is how the League will operate right here. So far I've outlined a great deal of work that Chaldean League needs to accomplish. And it may seem as though we're creating too much work for ourselves. But it's important to understand that the Chaldean League is simply an instrument. And I'll stress, the Chaldean League is an instrument. And every instrument ever constructed, no matter how eloquently designed, is only as useful as its operator, the person who's holding it and using it. You here in this room, our organizations, our community leaders, our media, you are the operators of this instrument. It is designed for your use. It is designed for you. The Chaldean League desires only to elevate the status of our organizations and our communities. We will coordinate the collaboration of our wonderful organizations, represent our Chaldean people, and bring their voices to our community leaders, and ultimately form the infrastructure by which our global Chaldean community achieves recognition and ultimately greatness. So that's a lot of information to process. We've all been talking for quite a bit. Now we want to hear from you guys. Want to know if you've got any questions. We want to be able to answer those questions. So we actually have some papers that we're going to pass out. If you have any questions, we'd like you to write them down. Somebody will gather your questions up, just kind of a time-saving initiative here. And write them up, and we'll bring them up to the front. We'll read them, and our panel here will attempt to answer your questions. While they're doing that, does anyone have a quick question to get started? Derek, go ahead.
My name is Derek Diplo. I'm a first-generation Chaldean. First of all, I want to say thank you to all of you. You guys are all do a round of applause for your hard work. You mentioned the Jewish community right now. They have the American-Israeli Public Affairs Committee going on right now in Washington, D.C. Over 100,000 members across the United States. 18,000 members are currently there. They have over 150 full-time lobbyists working in D.C. So we have one state representative in our community here. We have one judge, Diane Agostini. We have another judge in Circuit Court, Judge Hala Darbo. I think one of the most important things that we need to focus on, this is just my personal opinion, is getting our community registered to vote and getting them engaged in the political process. And I see so many of our community leaders and our pioneers here focusing on so many different efforts, whether it's humanitarian, whether it's education, whether it's political. I really think that we need to utilize our efforts with the church, all due respect to Bishop Francis and others, that after Mass we need to encourage our people to get registered, to get involved in the political process, because without them voting, we really have no voice. Thank you.
Yeah, that is a very excellent point, and I appreciate the input here. Yes, quite simply. There. Yeah.
Done. No, that's already happening. Wendy.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to touch base on that. I actually just got an email from Wendy Adshow earlier today regarding getting our people to register to vote. So can you tell us about that, Wendy? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Hi, everybody.
Can you stand up?
I'm one of the million organizations. I was a Chaldean. So, I work for the Chaldean Community Foundation, which is a nonprofit arm of the Chaldean Chamber of Commerce. So part of our lobbying efforts on a state level is through our PAC, the Chamber of Commerce, but also another arm that we operate out of Washington, D.C., which is a lobbyist organization, not as large as APAC, but we've been very successful in pressuring the administration to assign an ambassador for religious freedom. We've been successful in that. We also were successful with our colleagues in Washington, D.C. to get the genocide resolution passed. Not us, obviously, solely, but it's an important mark, as Derek has mentioned, that we need to be active also on the ground, not just here on the state level or regional level, but on a federal level and then globally. And so one of the initiatives that we're taking on is to encourage the refugees during their resettlement process. That resettlement cannot be successful without full acculturation, integration, and adaptation into the American society. And that requires participatory citizenship. If they're not participating in their local district, we explain to them it's important, not what happens in Washington, but what happens in Sterling Heights, in your school districts. If they're discriminating against your children, if they're giving you a hard time about their test scores, voting makes a difference. And so that the only way that you can influence your local and city and county government is by being a registered voter. And so we've already spoken with the bishop and got his approval that we're going to be putting together a volunteer team to hopefully man all the churches on every Sunday in which the priest who controls that church is amiable to do registration after every Mass. And so we're looking for volunteers. If you guys are, it's not an organizational thing where we're controlling. Each church has their own church and council parish. So if you have any friends, please contact your churches and get registered to vote.
Thank you very much. Yeah, absolutely. This is a very important issue, voting and registration. And again, is very important, as you said. And I appreciate you both for your input and for bringing that up. I do want to move to another question that we received here. The question was financing. Who will pay for this, and what are the methods? Great question. We do actually have some methods. So, anyone like to take that question?
Thank you for the question. I guess any organization that at this level had to have a budget, and had to have some kind of a way of funding. We have reached to some seed money that we are working with, but eventually we have a plan of how we raise funds. There are many different ways. We have membership that we are asking everybody to join the league, and we will be asking organization to become our honorary members in our league, and then we will have fundraising and other activities that we will be able to raise funds for that. So it's not an easy task, but we got a lot of work to do. But I think we will all together will be able to achieve it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Got some more questions here. So I'm going to just put them in the order that I'm picking them up and getting them brought to me. So no favoritism here. So, okay. Great question. I've been asked to ask you all, how do you feel about this organization and its mission? This one, in the interest of time, I'm going to let you guys write it down because I think we could talk for quite a bit of time and I want to address some more questions. So, Jan, do you mind if we come back to that one? Thank you. Okay. Here's a good question. The USA Board of Directors, will it be elected? Yes. Right now, we've established and appointed board members. They are temporary board members. Our service will end by the end of this year. That date has not quite been established yet, but it will ultimately end, and there will be general elections by which members who have paid membership dues will have the right to vote for the board of directors for the USA board as well as their local boards, local state boards as well. Okay, it says, many academics within the Chaldean community understand that everyone who calls himself, herself, Soraya speaks the same language, comes from the Nineveh Plains and our ethnic group, and that beyond that, endeavors to do with Iraqi Christianity are fine, but that many are baffled and put off by this project. Okay. Not quite sure I see a question in there, but I believe I will try and attempt to formulate the question, and whoever wrote it can confirm. So are you asking what is the part of this organization as far as defining ourselves as, or defining our identity, or?
Yes.
Okay, so you do say here many academics within the Chaldean community understand one thing, and it is true. There are many academics that understand several different things. That is in fact, in essence, the issue that we're having. There are a lot of theories, there's a lot of evidence, there are a lot of hypotheses that have been made, but no clear-cut evidence or fact proven what our distinct heritage and bloodline resides to, and whether we are, Chaldean or Assyrian or Babylonian or Mesopotamian, or what exactly it stems from. I will say this, If one person in a room calls himself by a specific name, that specific name doesn't really have much recognition. But when you get a large enough number of people that claim that this is their name, and this is we are this, and this is who we are, it tends to bear a lot more weight and validity to it. So the fact of the matter is, today there are communities which identify themselves as Chaldean. There are communities that identify themselves as Assyrian and as Syriac. The historical lineage of these communities has not been documented and proven in every single citizen and individual. So quite frankly, it's a very personal issue. Do you call yourself what you decide to identify yourself as? Your cultural identity is a very personal issue. We don't look to promote or to tell you what your identity is. If you believe you are Chaldean, then as many of us do, as the founders of this organization do, as many people around the world believe they are Chaldean and call themselves Chaldean, nobody can deny it. You cannot tell me that my identity is incorrect or false. Now, there are two issues to identify. And the question is of Iraqi Christianity versus globalized community of Chaldeans. Now, in Iraq, the people who are suffering are not just Chaldean. They are the Christians of Iraq. So the goal of this organization is to provide services to those people, non-discriminatory of what they decide to identify themselves as. If they decide to identify themselves as Chaldean, there are Chaldean League offices within their regions that they can subscribe and join as members. But it does not exclude them from the beneficiary services, humanitarian aid services that this organization and other organizations are trying to provide. So we're not trying to decipher and, oh, are you Chaldean or Assyrian or this before we provide you with aid. If you are in need, if you are in this community, if you have been displaced from your home due to war and turmoil, you will be assisted in these service plans. As a globalized Chaldean community, we are servicing Chaldeans around the world, in Germany. We're not servicing Christians in those countries because, quite frankly, if I decide to service the Christians here in Michigan, that list is extremely large. There are a lot of denominations within Christianity. We are a denomination, we are an ethnicity, we are a culture. We would like to serve the Chaldean people. I hope I answered that question. Did I address it? Sure.
The reason I asked is because within I would say the last decade or so, the influx of refugees, many of whom attend Chaldean church but don't identify with the Chaldean ethnicity. How does that work for them?
As far as receiving services from refugee aid services?
No, not just services, because you said that they could receive services in Iran, right?
Right, you're talking
globally,
mm-hmm.
Those people who attend Chaldean church but don't associate under the Chaldean ethnic label, they can't join this league.
Are you asking me if they can join as membership in this organization, or are you asking me can they receive assistance from the programs of the organization?
Both.
Okay. In the bylaws of the organization, you do have to identify yourself as Chaldean. There's no DNA test to it, so we're not going into any lineage or heritage. If you yourself believe you are Chaldean, that's credit enough. You're able to join as a member of this organization. That's one of the requirements. That is a requirement. You do have to identify yourself as Chaldean to become a member and pay dues. Now, to receive benefit from those services, no. As I stated, the services themselves are geared towards the resettled people here. They also need assistance, which will be provided to them. They will not be discriminated based on the fact that they don't call themselves Chaldean.
Okay, but you said globally that they wouldn't be entitled to the same services.
Well, I meant more so membership. Globally membership, yeah.
Global membership, they won't be
Right.
entitled to.
Now, yes, in regards to the Iraqi refugee situation,
Yes.
we're providing services to Iraqi Christians. or in minorities too. I mean, they don't necessarily need to be Christian either. If they feel displaced and refugeed from their home, then they could possibly qualify for these services.
Our target is Chaldeans, but we're open to all.
Exactly. Exactly.
The floor is open in Arabic too. If you'd like to raise your voice in Arabic, more than welcome.
But please translate.
Okay. So the question was posted as to what type of programs have been implemented with regard to education. Would anyone like to?
Again, this organization is newly formed. We are been in business since July of 2015. We are in a phase of building our organization. So at this phase, we have a lot to do to build our branches and our offices and our regional offices all over the world. We are building our offices here in the United States. We have 4 locations that we are putting our offices in. Michigan is one of them. Then we have San Diego. Pretty soon they're going to announce their people, their board. And then we have Chicago, and then we have Arizona. So we are in the building stages. We have 1 year since we were formed to build all our infrastructure, all our offices, all our branches. And then the phase of the implementation will follow after we have the new election and the new people that they will take over this organization, and they will serve 3 to 4 years in that. We are all temporary right now for 1 year, and we're trying to build the organizational structure. Thank you.
Jamal, can I ask a follow-up? How soon do you expect to have full-time administrative help? Paid? Because I think that's very important.
Full-time paid administrative help.
That's very important up in the beginning.
Well, at this stage, we are all volunteer. I mean, we have all our boards are volunteer, whether it's administrative board or operational board in Michigan or in San Diego. But, you know, like I said, in the new phase of the implementation, we are looking to, we are looking to build our budget and build our financial situation that we will have an office. So I would say beginning of the next year, because we're going to have election probably by September, we'll finalize all our election for upcoming term. So by the time the new board or the new members that will join, it will take some time for them to establish their offices and so on and so forth. So by next year, hopefully we could have somebody operate.
All right. Got another question here. Where the Chaldean League will be getting the funds to fund this? I think we addressed this question. Still? On behalf of our student groups in our community, you may have noticed we have strength in numbers. What do you have planned for the future of these students, and how can we prepare them to be more involved in the community and unified?
The future of every organization, as you all know, is the youth. And in this summer, we are going to form a youth board together with all the present Kassabs and many other people who have shown interest. And we want to go school to school. And all the high schools, middle schools, colleges, one after another here locally in Detroit. And hopefully we can make a model for a student organization for all schools. Get them involved, get them educated about our culture, and have them working to help our people around the world. And hopefully by the end of the year we can have a model for other Chaldean League student associations across the world.
Thank you.
Okay. Question is, the next election in Iraq is coming soon. How are you preparing for it locally and globally? How are you educating people outside of Iraq to go for election? Great question.
We all know that in Iraq we have many political organizations. We have Chaldean organization, as much as we have Syriac organization, political organization, and Chaldean political organization. All these political organizations, they have done a great job trying to promote and succeed in placing a Christian of Iraq in general, because that's what the quota is, to be served in the government. Our patriarch at this phase is asking to have a unified Christian board or Christian assembly that will come together and establish themselves as the body that will represent all Christians in Iraq. So we are trying to eliminate the confusions of the Chaldean and the Syrian and the Syriac and all that. And then we're hoping that this call will be achieved by our organization or by our political people that they are interested to serve as the quota of Christians. So right now, our patriarch have made an announcement that on the next election, we want to have one unified Christian Iraqi to represent, to come in and lobby and be voted for and work together as Christian of Iraqi. He is not encouraging that each political party here and there trying to work individually on that. So that's what the place for us to work on.
Can I elaborate on Jamal's situation?
Sorry,
أقدر أتابع السيد جمال بس تحت هنا. سيد جمال تقول إنه سيدنا الفترة راح تسوي مجلس النسوي. ومن صفحة راح تسوي رابطة كلدانية. طيب ليش ما تسوي رابطة مسيحية؟ يقولون يدخلون سياسيين يعملون ضمن هاي الرابطة حسب ما هم يشبعون فيها أي قضية. يعني ايما القبه تجيب فلان من يتداول كايش وكايش بس كلنا تحت الخطاب المشيحان نغلى as a Christian league rather than a divided league, because you just said the patriarch called for a Christian unity in Iraq so we can accomplish our political goals in Iraq. So why don't we just call it a Christian league rather than Chaldean League? Why don't we go around with that?
Also, let me elaborate. Do we have dates? Do we know who we're going to go elect?
Who are we going to go elect?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a question coming up for that. So if I can address that question when it's asked. Did you read it, maybe? Yeah. Let me allow his question to be addressed first, and I do have that question up here, so we do want to get to that as well.
اوكي سؤال الاخ اسعد زين هو مثل ما قال جمال نية سيد البطرك هي أن unite all Christians in one organization or in one party. But he knows, and we know, it is very hard. We need miracle from heaven to have them all together. For that the patriarch said, if they are not united all together, we will make a Chaldean party. And to represent the Chaldeans, not the others. ليش مو رابطة المسيحية وإذا تعمل يجي واحد آخر يقول من قال لك أنت تقدر تحكي باسمنا؟ إحنا مسيحيين.
سيدنا هم يجي لك واحد يقول لك أنا كلداني مسلم من الناصرية.
ها؟
هم يجي لك واحد يقول لك أنا كلداني مسلم من الناصرية. حكمة الآشوري اعتنق الإسلام.
لأن بس المشكلة إنه المسلم الكلداني ما يقول ليش تحكي باسمي. الآشوري يقول لا تحكم باسمي.
هذا المسلم الكلداني صار له 1400 سنة ده يحارب جهاد النكاح وجهاد ما اعرف شنو، هسه هذا يصير كلداني براسنا؟
لا، ما دام يريدون يسمون نفسهم كلدان، شعروا بنفسهم انهم من اصل منطقه كلدانيه، فما داعي ننكر عليهم.
سيدنا حضرتك قلت الرابطه ما يصير تروح ضد الشريعه الكنسيه. هذه زوج اربعه.
لا ما يروحون، هذول الكلدان ما راح يروحون، اذا دخلوا بالرابطه ما يروحون ضد
واحده فقط.
إيه.
I also want to add that, you know, the concept of the organization as a Christian organization of Iraq is a beautiful thing. We're all trying to achieve the goals and objectives for the right of all Christians in Iraq. But the Chaldean League is not just for Iraq. It's not just for Iraq. Iraq is one of the things that we are working to achieve and help our people. But it is about Chaldean, that they are displaced or they are all over the world in 16 countries. The Chaldean League is about bringing Asara Kaldaya, Rabita Kaldania, to bring all these people together. I want to know my people in Australia and in France and in Sweden and in San Diego and so on and so forth. So the purpose of this organization as a Chaldean League, it's not only to serve only the Chaldean or the Christian of Iraq, but those are very strong and important goals that we want to achieve as Christian. Again, we are about 85% of the Christian of Iraq as Chaldean. So we are the majority anyway.
Okay, short, real quick, and then we don't want to take too much time on this, so we're going to keep moving afterward.
Thank you. معك صورة أنا بس كلهم ضيف ترند يعني القضية ليلة يعني أخونا مسعد قضية ليلة عاطفة يعني الأحزاب السياسية في العراق تجربة أثبتت بشمل السورايا ليلة بهذا من دي تكون سورايا لا تحدي تأثر رايدية وبعدين أحزاب ليلة أحزاب مستقلة إلى أحزاب تابعة وتمول من جهات الكبرى فلذلك اخي الكلدان سيد القطرة كله تاويلا استقلالية تاويلا موقف وطني تاويلا دور فلذلك سيدنا طرح لمندي بساحة بين لو بطل قائمة السوراي كلها لو اخي الكلدان تنحق وانا خشوة كل كوميونتي اتحق تاويلا مؤسسات بشمها الماروني ترابط الماروني السريان ترابط السريانية اخونا تناظرنا تكون روابط عطولية زين مين خلال قام قايخ لكلدان لقوا اختاويلا رابطة كلدانية هاي حقني شعبيخ حقني لنخني تاويلا تمثيل واضح وصريح في المجلس الوطني العراقي بين الكلداني الرجل الوطني الانتماء الى الوطن لا الانتماء الى اجندات اخرى شكرا.
Okay, like in the interest of time, I want to move on to other questions that have been asked and allow them the proper time. So I have another question here that says, will the league perform due diligence on who would be the best candidate to help our cause locally and nationally? And I believe there was also added as to who, do we have a list of names who are to vote for, how do we know who are we voting for? So this is one of the things that we're trying to stimulate participation. Right now we don't have the membership base, we don't have the people that are interested in assuming control and running for office and election. So that is something within this year that we hope to establish. That's something that we, as one of the reasons why we engaged all of you here in this room, is to stimulate participation in this organization, as well as potential people who would like to volunteer and run for election as well. So yes, there will be some due diligence as to the background of these people, but there will be resumes and things like that that will be filtered, and our community, your community knows who the prominent figures are within your community. So that's another added benefit as well too. So, but they will be vetted, the people, and we will have an election process, a formal election process. Did that satisfy the question there?
Are we going to make sure that the people, some people will attend church but will not join this, at least these people will make sure that they have the right document, they know when is the election, where is the election?
Yes, absolutely. Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Okay. Well, I get a couple more questions, and then 2 more questions, and then we'll have to conclude for the evening. Question is, will the Chaldean League be the voice of the Chaldean people globally? And if so, what is to stop another organization from representing Chaldeans? Well, there's a great question. The answer to that is yes, it will be the voice for the Chaldean people globally. What is to stop another organization from representing Chaldeans? Apparently there's nothing to stop anybody from speaking on behalf, but I will stress there is no other organization that has the structure and backing and depth globally as the Chaldean League. So there may be some claims, but once this organization is established and operating, realistically nobody will have the power and the backing behind the voice like a unified global front with representatives in different countries and organizations and operating stems within those countries funneling back up through one global structure. So by weight and by that, we bear our authority for the Chaldean people. And those are the questions that I have. I'm sorry to those that we did not get to those questions.
Just one last question. I'm sorry. It's a political season, so I got to ask this. So right now we have all the presidential candidates, minus the Kashmir from Maine, lobbying everybody at APAC. What is the Chaldean League stance on supporting presidential candidates, especially our local candidate, because Clint, who had to leave,
He's still here.
because he's up for election this fall.
Yeah.
And I think, what is your position or the group's position? Because now I'm a member. Right. And how are we going to make sure that he secures another victory so he can represent our community locally?
Absolutely. I'm going to allow Jamal to answer that question.
As a Chaldean League, any Chaldean that is running for an office, our duty is to help this particular person going into that office. As far as voting for any other part, well, qualification comes, I'm sure that the government and all the other issue has some qualification that he has to get up into that list of running for an office. But when he reached to that point, and we as Chaldean League will help this Chaldean person to achieve his goal. That's the only thing that the Chaldean League is supposed to do for our people, all of them that they are running for an office. But as far as other political organizations, of course, that's the rights of every individual.
So Jamal, I want to be heard. I sent in my questions there. I'm Michael Shalal.
Yes.
And I have several legitimate questions. I mean, I know for sake of time, but I am one of those people that are running for office. And I sought all the help that we can get. Actually, I've been running since 2010. And the church would not, or not would not, but the church could not help me because of separation, which is understood. So I turned to the media and our people, caused enough turbulence that I got a lot of Chaldeans registered to vote, at least in my district. And I really commend Clint on following suit. 2012, he did do a hell of a job getting other Chaldeans to register to vote and eventually vote on the west side. So I wanted to know the Get Out to Vote campaign right now, which is starting awfully late in the season, but it's never too late. How is that going to be any different than the ones we've had before individually? So this is a court or a rabita. A rabita is supposed to bring all the organizations, all the groups together on their unified purpose. So the purpose here, obviously, is to establish the identity of the Chaldean community. Are we Chaldeans because of the church, or we are Chaldeans because we're Babylonians? We're Chaldeans because we are a group that we call ourselves Chaldeans. And then also I've heard about how, but I have not heard about the actual mechanism. So theoretically versus practically, it's completely two different things. So you talk about identifying goals, linking groups, and then defining the mechanism. So how are we going to link all these platforms together? I'm sorry, there's a lot of questions all come.
Yeah, I have them here.
No, let me finish.
Yeah.
Because you have my list,
Mhm.
and you were gonna fold it because of the time. But I really appreciate everybody, just listening to me. Just give me some time.
Good work.
And I can speak in Chaldean or Arabic, however you guys like. But we can go in English.
English is fine if we can kind of get to the point.
So, I guess before bringing people in here, this is a meet and greet, right? So before bringing people in here, we should have at least let people, the attendees, know who's coming. So when I walk in the door, obviously I'm wearing a name tag, so most people would know because of the name tag, not because I'm important. But we need to bring people from all different